Hello, my name is Ronald L. and I'm the author of a book entitled The Deep Things of God, Reflections of a Jackleg Preacher. I wrote this book because I believe that many ordinary people think as I do all the time about who God is and our relationship to God. And some of these ideas, usually relegated to the realm of formally trained theologians, are very deep ideas. But all of us, no matter what our background, no matter what our station in life, really think about those deep things. And so I thought it fitting and proper that we ought to write some of those things down and provide a way for us to have this kind of discussion that we're having today. I organized the book into several sections. One section deals with miracles, and there are 6 chapters that talk about miracles, the 6th of which is called Deep Water Religion. And that's the one I want to talk about a little bit today. If you're interested in purchasing a hard copy of the book or the Kindle version of the book, which I also have here, you can go to Amazon.com, where we are listed, and just look for The Deep Things of God, Reflections of a Jackleg Preacher, or you can look for it under my name, Ronald L. Or if you want to purchase and download the audio version of the companion sermons, you can go to ronaldlglenn.bandcamp.com. So today, let's talk a little bit about chapter 6, Deep Water Religion. Deep Water Religion is a chapter that deals with a very well-known scripture, which comes from Luke chapter 5, verses 4 through 11. It deals with the famous statement of Jesus that he made to some men who he was calling as his disciples. They were men who were experts in their particular field, and that field was fishing. And as Jesus was calling them from fishing for fish to fishing for human beings, he made a statement that many of you know. He told them that they should launch out into the deep, and one occasion, and he told them to cast their nets in a particular place in another occasion. And so this is why we talk about deep water religion. What's interesting about this particular scripture is the reaction of the fishermen. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into the deep water and let down the nets for a catch," the Bible tells us in that particular scripture in Luke chapter 5. We have to understand that this was Jesus, who was not a fisherman, talking to Simon, Peter, who was an expert fisherman. They were frustrated in their fishing, it's true. They weren't having the best day as professionals on that particular day. And here comes this man who is at best a jackleg fisherman, who told them how to fish, where to fish, cast out into the deep. What's really fascinating to me is Peter's reaction. I wonder how you would feel, for example, whatever your profession is. If somebody came along who clearly is not trained in that profession and then told you how to do your work even better than you had ever done it in your life. Peter reacted by seeing something in himself. What he saw in himself was his own inadequacies. And he responded this way. When Simon Peter saw this, that is the great catch of fish, he fell at Jesus' feet and said, "Go away from me, Lord, I am a sinful man." For he and his companions were astonished at the catch of fish they had taken. And so were James and John, the sons of Zebedee, Simon's partners. But what a reaction. I am a sinful man. That in seeing the power of Jesus, it wasn't so much that Peter reacted to the catch of fish, meaning I'm impressed as one who is an expert in this field, that someone who is not an expert in this field has told me how to do my job even better. But rather I realized that there is such a difference between this man, this special and peculiar man, and between me. And I see now my inadequacies, and I see my limitations. It's not unusual if you go back and read another chapter from the Bible, Isaiah chapter 6, and we look at the reaction of Isaiah when he finally saw a vision of God. And Isaiah, like Peter, made a statement about himself when he said he was a man of unclean lips. He was a man who saw for the first time his own lack of goodness and lack of worth when he considered the awesome power and abilities and grace and mercy and divine goodness of God. And so this chapter then asks us to examine this notion of deep water religion and what it says about us as human beings and what it says about our relationship to God as we finally come to an understanding, we hope, that God is calling each of us from what we were into what we are to become. But it's also important to note that God, most often when God calls us, does not ask us to leave behind all of the abilities that we had, does not ask us to throw away everything that we were trained to be, but rather is simply saying, you have the skills as a fisherman, you have the skills as a chemist, you have the skills as a carpenter, you have skills as a computer programmer, you have skills that you've been able to get. And now I'm asking you to go out and apply those skills. Peter, you are a fisherman. I want you to continue to fish. But now I want you to fish for human beings, for human lives, for human souls, and bring them into a saving relationship with God. So I hope that you'll get the book and read that chapter and the others, and maybe we can have a conversation one day, perhaps through the internet, about deep water fishing. What do you feel that God is calling you to do? Is God telling you to cast out into the deep? Is God telling you to look perhaps on the other side and cast your nets? Is God saying, bring the skills that God has given you and apply them for the work of God? That would be an example of one of the deep things of God. That is deep water religion.